Hi, welcome back to the show. My name is Nelda. Today we're addressing this idea that all Africans are trying to be European. The reason we're doing that is I recorded a video last week debunking the myth that when Africans are migrating, a majority of us are trying to move to Europe because somebody left a comment on one of my videos saying we're all desperately trying to go to Europe, and I addressed that using real data from the World Migration Report, from the UN, all reputable sources from the BBC, and still people don't believe me. So as I always say, I will bring you the real data. Don't argue with me. You can go argue with the data. Today, we're addressing something that is slightly related to that. And it's also based on a comment that somebody left where they were saying, well, all Africans are trying to be Europeans. And then they asked me, well, where did you get your name from? Now, my name's Nelda, and I responded to him. I said, well, I got my name from my dad. He's the one who gave me the name. I was literally 1 hour old when my dad gave me the name, and he said, well, there you go. All Africans are trying to be European. And I will include the screenshots here as well so that you guys can see I'm not lying or anything. It was a real conversation that happened in the comment section. And I'm trying to address this. I'm actually addressing it because, again, it is a myth. We're not trying to be European. Back to myself to give you the context of my name and how I ended up being called Nelda, even though I'm clearly a black woman. My name was given to me by my dad because when my mom was pregnant, he read a book and he really, really liked the book. And he said if I was going to be a boy, then I was going to be named after the author. If I was going to be a girl, I was going to be named after the author's wife. That's as far as I'm concerned. So I ended up being a girl, and he was like, well, she's going to be called Nelda because the author's wife's name was Nelda. That was it. And that is where I'm going to start this conversation from, is the idea that names are more than just geographical. When you meet somebody named Muhammad, you're not going to say, oh, they're trying to become Arab. No, they're not. It has a religious context behind it. It has a religious inspiration behind it. In the same way, when you come across somebody named Peace, you're not going to be like, oh my gosh, they're trying to be European because peace is an English word. No, there is a context to it. The parents maybe felt peace when they had their baby, and they were like, you know what? We like the meaning behind this name. We're inspired by the meaning of this name, so we're going to name our child Peace. But at the same time, now that I've defended myself and I'm in the clear, hopefully, there are areas where actually a lot of Africans are hiding their own identity and they're trying to run towards other identities, particularly European. So while I was very, very angry and I took it very personally when this commenter said that, I still understand that there are areas where Africans generally are trying to become more European, starting with names. It's very true. There are times when Africans have actively tried to not name their kids African names, and this extends beyond just Africa as a continent, but even to the diaspora in America, in the Caribbean. There's actually very, very good reasons for this. The first reason is, practically speaking, and don't come attack me, I'll give you the data as always, there is benefits to going with the flow. And hear me out. I'm all for let's normalize African names. Yes, Black Power, Black Lives Matter. At the same time though, there are so many research studies that have shown that having a black name or a black sounding name or an African sounding name will literally work against you. There are studies, and I'll link them down below in the description as well, psychology studies that I read because I have a degree in psychology, where we read when resumes were being presented in front of people who do the hiring, same resume, copy and paste, you just change the name. The black applicants were 50 times less likely to be called compared to the white applicants. That's a real piece of statistic, but I don't even think you can say statistic as one word, but that's real. So I'm not justifying it that it's real, but I'm saying I sense personally having a name like Nelda John potentially has helped me get into rooms that if I had a regular African name, I might have not gotten into. And not just me, there's a story of a woman on TikTok who literally said that she was in the process of hiring. She met a very, very nice Nigerian candidate, and when she presented him as the person she wanted to hire, the hire up said, no, his name is too Nigerian. It's going to affect us with the people who actually do the funding. I will also link the TikTok down below because you will think I'm lying. So don't just say, oh, Africans are trying to be European. Some parents are thinking very strategically to be like, okay, we live in a world where racism exists. We live in a world where discrimination exists. Why would I give my child a name that they're going to be discriminated against? Which is why my middle name, very traditional. My middle name is Ilomelo. Very traditional. I could use it if I wanted to. But my dad was like, I want to honor, Ilomelo is my grand aunt. And he was like, I want to honor my aunt. My dad's aunt was my grand aunt. gave me my middle name, but I can run away with Nelda John and people would never know that I'm Tanzanian. I'm very proud of my Tanzanian identity, but I'm never going to drop my name Nelda. I know it's very European. So that's one element. Another element is something that a lot of you have actually mentioned before, because people have asked me where my accent is from. And I, for the longest time, had a very nice little Tanzanian accent. And then I realized when I got to an international school, I got a scholarship to an international school, people would treat you differently and they would deem you smart when you spoke with certain accents. And I think over time, and I'm very guilty of this, by the way, I ended up picking up an accent that sounds less Tanzanian. Some people can still pick up that I'm Tanzanian, some people can't. But over time, I started learning how to speak in a certain way that would get me things that I needed. I'm just being very, very frank with you guys. I will. It's not like I'll never lie to you, but I'll try not to lie. But this has happened over my life to the extent that when I was in college, my undergraduate thesis was looking at accents and accentism. And my research, which I'll also link down below, showed that when African people, particularly in my study was Ghanaians, a Ghanaian accent, a typical regular Ghanaian accent was rated lower than when the same Ghanaian person was trying to sound more American. Pure research study, was peer reviewed and everything, published in the Psychology Archive. I'll link it down below. Real statistic, real study. So when you see an African, and this is very common, a lot of Africans can code switch. A lot of us can do that. You will see us, if I want to speak in my little Tanzanian accent, you will see my accent change a little bit. When I want to say water, I can say water. When I want to say water, I'll say water. When I want to say uncertainty, I'll say uncertainty. When I want to say uncertainty, I'll say uncertainty. So you can sort of like code switch and go in and out depending on the context. And it's not like I'm trying to sound more European for the sake of sounding European because I'm desperately trying to be European. No, it's because there have had, clearly my English is failing me, because there has been moments in my life when sounding Tanzanian has costed me things. And over time I was like, I wonder what will happen if I'm having a phone interview. Why the heck would I start speaking in my Tanzanian accent? If you want to fight me in the comment section. I'm just speaking from my experience. So that's number two. Number three, we're going to talk about beauty and aesthetics, because I have said this with my entire heart and soul. I hate it so much when I see African women wearing wigs that do not resemble African hair. I get so angry, guys. I get so angry. I don't even know what it is about me. Now, you will never catch me in a Brazilian bust down. You will you cannot. I like my braids. I like my afro. I like my African, just typical African looking hair, because for the longest time people are trying to sell us this idea that wearing a nice little straight wavy wig is the way to go, is the way to look professional, is the way to look beautiful. And I disagree. And I think this is a call to African women and also African men, because a majority of you guys watching me are men. When you see your women wearing wigs that resemble white women's hair, how about you ask them, question it a little bit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with wearing a wig. I love my wigs, but I make sure that my wigs resemble Afro textures because I'm trying to also normalize. My English is failing today, guys. Normalizing it for myself to be like, African hair, African texture is beautiful, beautiful. And I think other people should be embracing this as well, because this year, for example, we've had some major weddings across the continent. Chioma and Davido, we've had Prissy and Jukes, we've had Temi Otedola and Mr. Easy. I want you to just look at the brides and the hair that they're wearing on their head. At what point did these brides wear their natural hair? Yeah? Or at what point was their hair coily and curly? Because we know as Africans, a lot of us, our natural hair is coily to some extent. So these are genuine moments. So even though, like I said, I'm very bitter and I took it very personally when a commenter asked me about my name. But there are areas where Africans are actually running away from our African identity, and I don't blame us. For the longest time, our identities have been demonized. Africanness has been demonized, made to feel less than. Like here, for example, there was a time when it was in South Africa during apartheid. They were doing the comb test. If they took it's like a comb, like the end of a comb or a pencil, and they put it in your hair, and it got stuck, you're considered colored or African, and then you're going to be thrown away into the dirty areas of the country. It was a real time, and I think we've internalized these things over time. But I want this to be a challenge to us, to ask yourself, even you today, are you trying to change yourself and to suppress elements of you that are traditionally African or traditionally from your home country, whatever the name is? Are you trying to suppress those parts of your natural identity so that you can fit into a wider area? And if so, why? Is it for practicality? Is it because you hate yourself? Is it because you've internalized stereotypes? What is going on there? So that is all I have for you guys today. Let's consider our cultures. Let's see that our cultures are beautiful. I've addressed this in another video. I will link it down below. All cultures are beautiful in their own way. They all have negatives. They all have positives. Let's embrace more of our identity. Okay. I'm still not going to change my name. I'm going to keep Nelda. And you can be mad about it if you want. I'm not trying to be European. My dad gave me the name. I love the name and I will stick to it. So hopefully you guys like this video. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it, and let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and as always, you will see me in the next video. Bye!